Check the feed.
Yeah, we should be good. Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom lakam, which is peace unto you all. Anachna wahai barsha alay with the Hebrew Israelites coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai to preach to you so-called Nicos, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, and Israelite foreigners. Nachamatam kaya malakat hashemayim kwarab. Repent ye for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. First and foremost, before we get started, we're going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rachah Kodash. While double honors to the elders and apostles of great millstone that taught us truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, out there pushing this truth with all righteousness and sincere shalom, shalom.
So, so this morning, just a quick lesson to the spirit of the Lord, man. Touching on the situation here in Charlotte, right, which is about to spread throughout the whole country, right, in regards to the ICE immigration, deportations and things of that nature, right? But this is the spirit of Esau that's being ramped up in the earth, man. Right? He's showing his true colors. He's showing what his motives and things of that nature, are in the earth right now. Right, his focus being on Northern Kingdom, but soon he's going to turn to the Southern Kingdom, man. Right. Mm-hmm. So the way that they're attacking, so-called Hispanics, right, even getting so-called Native Americans in the mix, right. This is the ire that he has towards you tribes, man. Right. Now, if you could read some of that article, just going into what they're calling Operation Charlotte's Web, just landbacking off the elder here in Charlotte. A couple of days ago.
Kind of says, what's happening in North Carolina? Feds are swarming the swing state. It says the Department of DHS said its aim to target the criminal illegal aliens who flocked to the Tar Heel State. North Carolina Governor Josh Steen criticized the operation. It says in Charlotte, North Carolina, federal agents were seen on video smashing the window of U.S. citizen's truck before pulling him to the ground. Tens of thousands of school public students, reportedly stayed home from school on Monday, November 17th, and businesses in immigrant communities shuttered as border agents patrolled the streets. It says North Carolina has become the latest focus in Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration as federal agents surge into Charlotte and spread out across other Democratic-led cities in the notorious swing state, including Durham and Raleigh.
All right, so what we're seeing right now is less about deportation and immigration or cracking down on illegal immigration. It's more about establishing control, right? Because he's going to need to be able to round up people right at will. We went into in the past how they've militarized ICE, right? They're giving ICE more funding than some countries' entire militaries, man. Right? So what we're seeing right now is then that foothold being put together,
man. Mm-hmm. I got scripture real fast. This is Isaiah Yeshaya chapter 10 and verse 5. And it says, O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is my indignation. So ultimately, the Assyrian, being Esaw Edom, ultimately, he has us captive, all right, in which essentially the Lord has given him charge, to put 2/3. Well, I'm going to read down. Verse 6 says, I will send him against an hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge to take the spoil and to take the prey and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. And ultimately, the Lord has given this devil, Esau Edom, the green light, the charge to ultimately come down against 2/3. You see, because this has been essentially mandated for 2/3. Jacob's trouble is for 2/3.
Mm-hmm. You keep going that.
Okay. Article.
Okay.
It says located hundreds of miles from the southern and northern borders, North Carolina doesn't often generate national attention for immigration-related issues, leading residents and local officials to question why the state that voted for DJ Trump in the last 3 presidential elections is being targeted. It says the DHS said it launched Operation Charlotte's Web to target criminal illegal aliens who flocked to the Tar Heel state because they knew sanctuary politicians would protect them and allow them to roam free on American streets.
Right. So they named it Operation Charlotte's Web, right? So I looked here on the Chat GPT. I asked, why do police use spiderweb analogies for their operations, right? So it says one, a spider web represents a network of surveillance. Like a spider feels vibrations everywhere on its web. Police operations often rely on sensors, informants, or surveillance placed in strategic spots, right? So as we often go into, all these actions are leading to the implementation of that mark of the beast, man, right? To have that ultimate government surveillance over the people, right? It says interconnected communication lines, real time awareness of movements or disturbances, because they want to be able to see, right, dissenters, right, in real time. That's why AI is being pushed the way it is. That's why you see things like Gideon and Palantir, right, on the forefront of this AI security, man, right? Because they want to have that network established in order to be able to rein the people in once all hell starts to break loose out here. You know, it says the idea is that if something happens in one part of the web, the entire system becomes aware, right? So this is even you go into the way the internet is working now, right? They can go in and see what your chat logs are looking like. They can see what your phone calls are looking like, right? They check your emails and keep tabs on all these things in order to, when the time comes, to be able to roll in. Actually, we can get that Isaiah 59,
Mm-hmm.
and where it speaks on him, your enemies coming in as a flood.
Kindness.
Okay, yeah.
Kindness is Isaiah chapter 59 and verse 19. And it says, so shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him.
Right. So they're coming in like a flood, man, furious. Coming in, destroying everything in their path. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to. We see right now is them establishing that the groundwork, right, as we often go into before that ultimate attack. Right. This is just light what we're seeing with ICE and all these different alphabet agencies, man. Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's soon the entire country is going to be under martial law that is likened unto what we're seeing now.
Right, because it says, I read it again, Isaiah 59 and 19, it says, so shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. And what you said, it's only going to increase, because when you liken it unto a flood, a flood is something that's very prosperous and something that has a heavy intensity. So when you liken that unto how Esau moves militaristically, he's coming with great wrath. Pretty much a flood can come in. It's very unpredictable. And it comes in moving fast. That's how Esau is going to come. With his different groups and stuff like that. And as that takes place, and the Lord's essentially going to lift up a standard, a way ultimately to deliver, certain members of the elect.
Mm-hmm. And even you see, right, that during the time of Noah, the flood didn't just come in a giant wave, right? It started out as that rain, man, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're in the midst of that rain taking place. We're seeing those droplets, right? And you're seeing the water start to rise bit by bit, right? And soon it's going to be inescapable, man. Unless you got the spirit of Yahweh Shemel Shah with you, these people are about to drown, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But going back to this Chat GPT, it says webs illustrate how suspects get caught without knowing it. It says police use the metaphor to describe operations where a suspect is unknowingly surrounded. Escape routes are quietly closed off. Officers are positioned in layers like strands of a web. The suspect moves thinking they are free, but they are already inside a structural trap. And this is what America is, man. So it's a structural trap, right, for the tribes, man. Right? It was designed, in order to keep you ensnared in this way, right? For your ultimate destruction, man. right? Let me get this real quick. Let's show anything up.
La.
Uh, let's see where it's at. Grab Psalm 140 and verse 5.
Mm-hmm. This is Psalms chapter 140, and we'll get verse 5, and it says,
Actually, starting one.
okay. In Psalms 140 and 1, it says, Deliver me, O Lord, from the evil man, preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war.
Right, he's waging war against the tribes right now, man. Right, through his legislations. Right, we see, through the actions that they're taking. Right, this is a military force that's chiefly designed to go after the Northern Kingdom, man. Right.
It says, They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips.
Right.
Salah.
Their words, man. Like the scriptures say, that war was in their hearts, man. But their words were soft as oil. They may speak things right in a smooth manner, but trust and believe that they're plotting your demise right in their minds, man. Right? They just say what they need to appease the masses, but they have alternative motives, man, or ulterior motives.
It says, Keep me, O Lord, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from the violent man who have purpose to overthrow my goings.
Mm-hmm.
The proud have hid a snare for me, and cords. They have spread a net by the wayside. They have set gins for me. Salah.
Right. So you read this in the NLT. It says, The proud have set a trap to catch me and have stretched out a net. They have placed traps all along the way. And that's what, this operation is likened unto, man. Right? Is a trap, a snare, right? Something that's set up in order to get you caught, man. Right? We know this is also likened unto you getting caught up in the ways of this world, right? But now they're actively, hunting Jake down, man. Right? It goes into let me get that uh, how he shooteth in secret at the poor, right?
I
Let's
can
see,
get it.
kind of got
God, this is Psalms chapter 64 and verse 4. Verse 3. I started verse 1. It says, Hear my voice, O power, and my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words,
mhm.
that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not.
Right. They shoot in secret at the perfect, right? They set up an ambush, right, for for you unsuspecting, Negro, Latino, Native Americans, Hispanics, man, right? They set these things in your path in order to get you caught up, right? The American dream wasn't just a snare for Jake or for the Southern Kingdom. It was a snare for the Northern Kingdom too, man. They were led to believe that they were going to be allowed to exist in this society, man. Right? To be a part of this America. They were given these false illusions of freedom and things of that nature, man. Right? That you're going to be able to build a better life for your families. That you come over here, right, and be able to succeed, right? That's part of them. Like it says, uh, where we at? It's like it says suddenly do they shoot at them and they fear not, right? So this is them continually taking shots at you, man, right? Their main aim is your destruction, and by any means necessary, you know. But going back, it's at part 3 in the Chat GPT. It says webs symbolize layered containment and control. A spider's web isn't just one strand, it's rings within rings. Police use this analogy for cordons such as outer perimeter, Keeps public out. Middle zone restricts movement, and inner zone where the target is.
If I could
This is
add,
countdown.
if I could add, as as you mentioned before previously in the lesson, pretty much, the cities it's already structured. It's already a structured spider web. It's just that they're pretty much bringing in the reinforcements because when you look at each city, Babylon's just one giant city. So when you look at all the cities, you got the inner city, and who's chiefly in the inner cities is Jake. And then you got Esau, ultimately on the suburb. That's why when you look at some of these articles, the first places they hit is downtown, and then they said they pretty much is going to spread out. And that's pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, how a spider moves. It pretty much sets up the perimeter as we're going into, and then it branches out or it goes to the prey. I got this real fast.
Mhm.
This is Second Ezra chapter 15 and verse 17. It says, "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able." So it's already set up to where, again, you got the inner city areas, and then you got the little branches of streets that go out to the suburbs, and then you got that big area, that big circle around the different cities, and that represents, the major interstates and the major highways and stuff like that. But reading it again, it says, "A man shall desire to go into a city and should not be able," and that's because it's going to be certain checkpoints, certain little points to where Esau is essentially cutting off traversing routes and traveling routes and stuff like that. And then also, with the easy pass, Jake really ain't got no funds to move like that, and then other various different means that Esau is going to put. But pretty much the point, that traversing and traveling not going to be how it is currently. They have already been cracking down on things such as that, with the real ID, the things with the passports and the digital ID and stuff like that. He's just coming down with the reinforcements because this devil moves with not sensationalism but incrementalism. Pretty much moving step by step. So this is one of the first parts of his plan.
Exactly. Number 4. It says webs emphasize patience and prediction. Spiders don't chase prey; they wait, knowing the prey must eventually cross a strand. Police use this analogy for operations involving long surveillance, sting operations, predictable behavior patterns, waiting for the suspect to make a move. The
Right. So if I could add, pretty much, because they already going into that structured plan, they already essentially closing off certain streets. Going into a man shall desire to go into a city and should not be able. And then also in the earlier part of the article, it said that they pretty much set, the prey feels as if they can escape. You see, but they already setting certain detours, certain streets, to where it's going to make it easy to where they essentially can capture whoever they're going after.
Exactly. That's why when you read that Psalm 64:4 in the NLT, it says, they shoot from ambush at the innocent, attacking suddenly and fearlessly, right? Because they've been watching the whole time, right? They've taken in all this information, so they know, what your next steps are, right? They've already plotted out all the possibilities, right, that you can make, and all the moves that you can make. So now they move without fear because they know that you're this is the least thing you're expecting, man. That's why you see these videos of them running in, daycares, running in quinceañeras and children's graduations and all these different things. Is that them setting up that ambush and attacking them when they least expect it, man. And how much more in these times to come, right? Like the scriptures say, they shall say peace and safety. Actually, get that, Baba Shah.
Okay, this is Second Thessalonians chapter 2, or it might be 3. Is it 3?
It's I think it's First Thessalonians 5.
First. Okay. Yeah, that's what it is. This is First Thessalonians chapter 5, and we'll start at verse 1. Or you want me to go straight to the point?
You can read down.
Okay. First Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 1. Subtitle, it says the day of the Lord. It says verse 1, "But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you.
Mm-hmm.
For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night."
Right. So the Lord, he's setting up his own ambush, man. Right. But he's using, as the brother brought out, right, he's using Esau as that rod of his indignation, man. Right. For that ultimate punishment.
For when, because then, going into that too, the Lord ultimately, the Lord is using Esau, Edom as that whipping stick, you know, because two-thirds essentially they wanted to misuse and abuse the grace period, so being that they wanted to choose the benefits that they seen as beneficial and they saw it as a covering, that's going to be ultimately to their own destruction, because they chose the ways that wasn't beneficial to them, while we had this grace period to ultimately repent and turn back to the Lord. Two-thirds just wanted to be in their own wickedness.
Exactly.
But it says, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 3, it says, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape."
Right. So, like you're reading this in the NLT, it says, when people are saying everything is peaceful and secure, then disaster will fall upon them as suddenly as a pregnant woman's labor pains begin, and there will be no escape. Right. So we're seeing, right, sudden disaster in a small form in the you know these ice raids, right? But how much more when you have these different military personnel breaking in people's houses and snatching people out for the things that they've posted online, right? Or how going through the persecution that we're gonna face, man, right? As being contrary to the way the Esau system wants to run, us speaking out against it, we're gonna be attacked, right? But us being in the understanding, right? We're not uh, ignorant to Satan's devices, man. Right? We understand that these times are evil, man. Right? And that's why we're protecting ourselves and seeking out that hedge of protection from Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, man. Right? The issue at hand is that our people have refused the hedge. So now they're left out there uncovered, and they're going to be taken advantage of during these ambushes, man, just as Esau did, right? He would attack from the back as we were coming out of Egypt, man, right? We can get. Actually, I'll finish the rest of this off. This is back
Okay.
in the chat GPT. It says intelligence units use web mapping to visualize relationships. It says investigators often build literal diagrams called link analysis that look like webs. Organized crime networks, terror cells, gang connections, financial flows. The analogy sticks because the diagrams resemble spider webs, nodes connected by strands, right? So this is him categorizing, man, right? You go into that. Let's get that. Revelation. And if you have anything out, you can go ahead.
Okay. This is I put a quick Google search. It says spiders from 14 families were observed feeding on earthworms in nature. It says, and species from 2 additional families consumed earthworm prey in captivity. It says earthworm predation by spiders has been observed in temperate, subtropical, and tropical regions in 18 different countries. And pretty much that Google search I wanted to get because scriptures like in the nation of Yaikwab, the 12 tribes, Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, Israelite foreigners, uh, essentially is Jacob, the 12 tribes. And ultimately, the Lord has already told us, he has set before his life and death, choose life, so those that's going to be in the correct spirit, being the elect, is going to have to, turn to the stronghold, who is the Lord, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. All right, with 2/3, essentially, they're going to be taking us prey. So I got this real fast. This is Yashaya, Isaiah chapter 41, and we'll get verse 13. And it says, "For I, the Lord, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, thy power will hold thy right hand, saying unto thee, fear not, I will help thee." Because that's ultimately what the Lord is saying, through his servants, the prophets. All right, with 2/3, though, essentially, they're hearing that message, but they ultimately want to confide in the ways that they find trust in. They're ultimately trusting in carnal means. So it says, verse 14, it says, "Fear not, thou worm Yaikwab, and ye men of Yasharallah, I will help thee, saith the Lord, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. So ultimately, 2/3 have heard, the warning and the message. It's just that the elect is ultimately going to subscribe to the message and receive that protection, with 2/3 essentially just being taken,
Exactly. Grab Revelation 12 and 10, and then jump down to 17.
This is Revelation chapter 12 and verse 10, and it says, I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our power and the power of his anointed. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused him before our power day and night.
Right. This is that accuser, man. Right. Going back to the web analogy, right? This is him trying to draw lines, right, to accuse us, man. Right. 2/3 already have the, the accusations, right? They're already in the mind frame of what Esau wants to push or portray. So they have those direct connections. But Esau is still trying to pin us, right, to all these different movements and different so-called philosophies out here, man. Right? So now what we're seeing now is them mapping these things out in order to be able to bring that flood upon the elect, man. Right? Their main objective is to try to take us out of the Lord's hand. Right? So like you grab that 17.
Okay. Revelation 12 and verse 17, and it says, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of the Most High and have the testimony of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach.
Right. So those who have this testimony are the ultimate target. Right. He's making war with the Israelites as a whole. Right. Jake, who know they're Israelites and who don't know they're Israelites, are all going to be under the same type of attack. Right. But his main objective is that the word of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai being taken out of the earth. So again, just adding to that point of, if you see this is what's happening now, right, for so-called illegal immigrants, how much more, the people who are chanting down the system, man, right? The men you see out here calling for the destruction of Babylon the Great, right? How much more of that, Get that in Isaiah 59 and is it 59? It might be 56.
How's it go?
It talks about us being how's it go? Salakia. That where it says truth faileth in the street.
Isaiah 59 and 15, and it says, I started verse 14, and it says, and judgment is turned away backward, and justice standeth afar off. For truth faileth, for truth is fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter.
Mm-hmm.
It says, yea, truth faileth, and he that departed from evil maketh himself a prey.
Right. So we're being made a prey, right? As we speak, right? Everything that this world is pushing as beneficial is contrary to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. That's why, right, this man is known as the adversary, right? Satan, right? He's adverse to righteousness, man, right?
It says, and the Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no judgment.
Mm-hmm. So the Lord is going to vindicate us at the end of the day, man. But we have to go through, right, this great time of tribulation, And Esau has his web spread to catch all passerbys, man. The only way that you're going to escape that is with the Spirit of the Lord, man. Right? Otherwise, you're going to be caught up and stuck in some form or fashion, man. Continuing in this, it says it can, where it speaks on the analogies of a spider web to police operations. It says it conveys the idea of an invisible but strong system. A spider web is thin but extremely strong, similarly to a police operation. Unseen by the suspect, highly coordinated, difficult to break free from once triggered. So the analogy communicates stealth, strength, and inevitability, right? Um, let's get Ephesians 6 and 12.
God, this is Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 12. And it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places."
Right. So this is a fight that's invisible to those who can't see it, man. Right? They don't understand the extent of this man's reach in the world, right? Of his intents in the earth, right? As the scriptures talk about, he spreads himself as a green bay tree, right?
Mhm.
A tree has to have that wide reaching root system, right, as well as the wide reaching branches. So he's touching in every field of the world, right? Much like a spider web. And like I said, it's difficult to break free from, right? These
Mhm.
things are almost impossible to get out of without the spirit of the Lord on you, man, right? Because we've been freed in the mind first, but soon we're gonna have that physical freedom from this place, man.
Mhm.
Let me get that. If you got anything else, you can go ahead.
I'm gonna run this back. This is Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 12, and it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." And essentially, the option, the operation is likened unto a spider's web. And ultimately, it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principality, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." So contrary to but the belief of those of this world, it's this battle it's a spiritual battle. Meaning that generally, it's not going to be seen by the carnal eye. All right. So, like going into where it says spiritual wickedness in high places, you have a lot of people that are involved in, law enforcement, military, or whatever this man system has to offer. A lot of those individuals is in those secret groups. Whether it be the Freemasons or like Rosicrucians, et cetera, and et cetera. That ultimately ties into that spiritual wickedness in high places to where essentially. Esau Edom is consulting with different spirits on the left hand side to keep his enterprise going. You see, but that's why essentially the elect is ultimately turned to the stronghold. You see, because this is a spiritual warfare, and we're not finna win by any type of carnal means.
Mm-hmm. Kind of get 2 Corinthians 10 and read 3 and 4 about the chef.
This is 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 3, and it says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds."
Yep. This is that stronghold that's being pulled down. The same way, you wipe away spider webs, right, when they're in the way, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
the spiritual manifestation of that, man. Right? Is that this word is moving all those traps and snares, out of the way. The belief in Yahweh Shemal Shai is shining a light on those those spider webs, right? That Esau has set out, right, in order to catch you up, right? In order for you to be able to move and to avoid, the traps, man. Right? And like I said in the Chat GPT, it conveys the idea of an invisible but strong system, right? Because this system it's strong against things of this world, right? It's strong against the carnal, but when it comes to the spiritual, it has no power, man. Right? So like it says, we're pulling down those strongholds. You could get that word strongholds
God.
in the what's it called? The interlinear.
Strongholds, it says, give me a second, G3794, and it says a castle, stronghold, fortress, fastness, anything on which one relies. It says of the arguments and reasonings by which a disputant endeavors to fortify his opinion and defend it against his opponent.
Exactly. Right. So everything that Esau has established as a defense is being torn down, man. everything that he's used to take over the earth, right? That through his sword, his blessing, right, is being removed before his eyes, man. Right, and that's why he's trying to fight against it so feverishly, because he realizes that he has no strength against the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai, man. Right, that's why he's coming against this word the way he is. That's why he's establishing this system as his final stand. You know. We'll get one more, and then we can close it. Let me see here.
What scripture?
I think it's second. This Salakia. I'm trying to find it right now.
God, I got a quick one. This is Revelation chapter 12. I'm gonna get verse 12, and it says, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens," talking about the elect, because ultimately the elect have their conversation in heavens. It says, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens." All right, and ultimately we should be in a rejoicing state, you see, because we're seeing the downfall of our enemy society, and it represents, the fact that, we got next. All right. It says, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time." All right, and that great wrath can be likened unto that flood in Isaiah 59 and verse 19, where Esau is coming with that heavy intensity. When we seen this devil, come into office, DJ Trump, he came in signing a whole slew of different legislations and laws and things of that nature. But it says having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Esau ultimately understands, that he has a short time to rule. The scriptures say that triumphing of the wicked is but for a moment, the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment. So this devil understands that he has, a limited time and spacing to rule, and which he can see, that power, that rulership being taken away from him. So what is he going to do? He's going to come down upon those that he has in slavery.
That's it. Grab second Ezra 16, and we'll read 70 through 75.
Okay. This is second Ezra chapter 16 and verse 70. And it says, "For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord."
Right. So this whole thing is established, right, to come after those who fear Yahweh Shem Shai, man. Right, because Esau knows that's his only means of defeat. Right. He doesn't know who the true believers are, so he has to take things to the utmost extreme and destroy everything, man.
It says, "They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord."
Right, again, they shall be like madmen, sparing none, man. Right, so again, just paralleling this situation with ICE, right? DHS, they're gonna use this as the what's the word?
Catalyst.
Yeah, the catalyst, right? To start that martial law, man. This is like the training grounds, right? It's the preseason for what's really about to come, right? It's just a small taste of what they truly intend to do to these American people, man.
Right. It's the like you said, the calm before the storm, and then before you actually go into like maybe some type of operation or any type of combative type of thing, you have that what you call like a little tune up. This the tune up for him.
Exactly.
Trump already said he was going to use the cities as training grounds. So they're ultimately getting their experience, from these different little procedures and stuff like that. You see, because while this is going on, while Isaiah 19 and verse 2 is going on, all right, going into that the civil unrest and the division, it's also the wars in the so-called Middle East is going on as well. Because this man understands that he's in the end of his rulership. So he has to get that training. It's not going to come to any avail, you see, but ultimately, we can see, the signs of the end of this man's rulership, and this is essentially this marks as a sign.
That's it.
Continuing on, second Ezra 16 and verse 71, it says, "They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord." For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses.
Yep, that's what we're seeing take place now, right? It's a car, right? Honestly, they're looking at any Jake, right, as a target right now, man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not even about the Northern Kingdom per se, right? Because Judah is going to be in the scope as well, you know. So right now they're going to take anything that they can from these people, right? And this again, it's just establishing that precipice, man, right, or that precedent rather, right? As this is opening their availability to do this.
Right. Because again, he's likening this into an experience, and this is just the start. So, right now, he's seeing what he can get away with. Like he's seeing that the people isn't really coming up against him like that. So this is just giving him more, confidence. To move further. Which we understand that the Lord is going to put the spirit on those in America, Babylon the Great, to essentially come up against them. You see, but nevertheless, this is just again the precedent and the basis of this man's whole operation and his enterprise. Which is gonna come to where essentially he gets the mass majority of people karagmat up, you see, but he's not going to get to the elect.
Right.
Verse 73, it says, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold and the fire.
All right, so we're getting tested right now, man. All right. We may find ourselves in these situations, man. Right? Revelation talks about how they shall cast you into prison 3 days, man, or just for a time, an unspecified number of days or time or weeks or months, however long it is, man. Right? You're gonna lose things. You're gonna have things taken. Right? We already know this. Right? We know we're gonna lose access to the system. Right? But this is a test to try those right who are that chosen gold, man. Right? To purify us, to be that right sacrifice for Yahweh Shem Shai, man.
Says, hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same.
Right. So that's the comforting words, man. Right? Is that, like it says, my beloved, right? Where the days of trouble are at hand, right? We're in the evil times right now, right? It's Ephesians 5th chapter, right? The days are evil, man, right? But he will deliver us from the same. That's why Jacob's trouble says, I will deliver you out of it, man, right? Though we're going to be in the midst of the fire, we know that we have that deliverance coming, right? Where he's not going to allow us to be, utterly destroyed. He's going to pull us out at the right time, man.
Verse 75, be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide.
Right. So this is our guide, man. This is what's directing our steps. This is what's lighting our paths. Right. This is what's giving us, that beacon, right? That standard, right, to follow towards, right? That's gonna guide us away from everything that was designed to destroy us, man. Again, to keep us out of the web, right? That Esau is setting forth, man. That he's spread out, right, as a trap, as a snare. Right. We're gonna be able to step through this thing, right, without being completely caught up, man. It's like you might get stuck here and there, right? But the Lord is always gonna make a way out, So like I said, be ye not afraid, neither doubt, right? Always trust in the Lord, as we went into earlier this week, right? When your trust is in the Lord, you have no doubts, man, because He has all control. He's gonna move these situations to His will in order for the benefit of His chosen. But that was pretty much it. Unless you had anything else.
I ain't got none.
So Lord willing, there's an edifying lesson to the spirit and power of how about Shem Yahweh Shai. Lord willing, you brothers and sisters were edified. We want to close by giving our praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakach, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.